I now call to order the regular scheduled meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals. The August 26, 2025 meeting minutes are on the agenda for approval.
I move be approved, sir.
Been properly moved and second that the meeting minutes for the August 26th meeting be approved. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion show by raising the right hand. We show 5 approval and 2 abstentions, Nancy and John. The motion is carried. The final orders have been circulated and they have been signed by the board members. Notice to the public, the time, the date, the place, and the agenda of this meeting was published as a legal notice on September the 2nd, 2025 in the Aiken Standard. Notice to contiguous property owners were mailed. Public notice public notice signs were posted, and board action was requested on or before September 2nd, 2025. Notice of this meeting was sent on September 19th for posting in the city webpage and to the city clerk for posting on the municipal building notice board at least 24 hours before this meeting. Agenda sheets were mailed or emailed to interested parties. As a reminder, it is unlawful for any person giving testimony to this board knowingly providing false information, and that's according to Section 22-9 of the Aiken Municipal Code. It states that each infraction is a separate offense with a penalty of up to 30 days in jail and or a fine of $1,092.50. We move directly into new business. I call your attention to application 20-93002. That's the variance request.
26, wasn't it?
26-93002. That's a variance request to permit a reduced front yard setback and reduced parking density on property located on Bolton Street and in Zone GB. To the city. Has this been properly posted?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it has.
Were there any inquiries that you wish to share with the board?
The planning department did receive one inquiry regarding the request from a neighboring property owner, but there was no formal comment submitted in writing. They just requested a copy of the staff report.
Thank you. Do you have a presentation for us?
Yes, sir. The subject property, located on Bolton Court Southeast, is a 1.1 acre lot in a commercial business park area off East Pine Log Road. The property is zoned general business and undeveloped currently. The request is for a variance to City of Aiken zoning ordinance section 4.3.1 to permit an approximate 15-foot front yard setback, as well as a variance to City of Aiken zoning ordinance sections 4.5.1 to permit 30 off-street parking spaces for the construction of 2 new commercial buildings on the property. Pursuant to section 4.3.1 of the city's zoning ordinance, structures on lots zoned general business must be set back from the front property line 30 feet. Pursuant to section 4.5.1 of the city's zoning ordinance, off-street parking standards require retail sales and service uses to provide 1 parking space for every 200 square feet of retail space. Approximately one half of the proposed square footage of the new structures could be dedicated to retail space, totaling approximately 8,840 square feet. I do have 2 corrections to the staff report. The first is the staff report does note a request to permit a 10-foot setback. However, the proposed setback request is actually 15 feet from the property line. So it is not 10 feet, it is 15 feet from the property line.
How many?
Say it again?
What was that, 15?
The request is actually for 15 feet from the property line, not 10 feet. Yep. The request is for a variance of 10 feet to reduce an old minimum building line standard from 25 feet to 15 feet from the property line. However, the 25-foot minimum building line standard was increased to 30 feet after the new zoning ordinance was adopted after year 2000, which means the request is actually for a 15-foot setback, not 10 feet. So it is further away from the front property line than the staff report notes. This discrepancy in the minimum build line on the survey was never corrected, neither when the property was resurveyed in 2006, nor when the applicant met with the city regarding the concept initially in April of this year. So basically, the applicant designed the initial site plan under the assumption that the 25-foot build line was the correct build line, correct standard, and the request was only for a variance of 10 feet, not a variance of 15 feet. Now, the building on the site hasn't changed anything relative. It's just that it's actually 15 feet from the property line, not 10 feet from the property line. So that's just a clarification there. There is one additional correction. As I mentioned before, off-street parking standards require retail sales and service uses to provide 1 parking space for every 2,000 square feet of retail space. As we mentioned, approximately one half of the proposed square footage of the buildings could be dedicated to retail space, totaling approximately 8,840 square feet, meaning technically the required number of off-street parking spaces to be provided would be 45 spaces, not 23 as noted in the staff report. That was a miscalculation on my part. However, there was additional clarification provided by the applicant in a packet that you received before the meeting started, and they're basically showing 30 spaces total, not 15. So based on that, they are asking for a reduction from the calculated 45 spaces to 30, meaning a reduction of 15 spaces, not 15 spaces total on the site. In addition to that, the applicant has stated that the required number of parking spaces will not be necessary given the proposed use and storage component of the space. Information provided by the applicant about the request as well as an approximate site and floor plan are contained in Exhibit A and B of your agenda packet. As I mentioned, however, though, this site plan that was in the agenda packet here, this initial submittal, has been updated and provided to you at the time of the meeting. This is that site plan here, and it now shows that 30-foot minimum build line correction. Apologize, it's a little hard to see here, but this number has been corrected to 30. And they're showing 30 spaces here rather than 15. However, this distance has not changed, but it is 15 feet, not 10. So just as a clarification, it is 15 feet from the property line, not 10 feet. This is a survey provided by the applicant as well, just to illustrate that it was at one time 2 lots, and then I believe in 2006 these were combined into the 1 lot there.
Yeah.
As depicted on the zoning map attached as Exhibit C, adjacent properties are either zoned general business and primarily undeveloped or unincorporated. As you can see, this Caldwell Court here is primarily unincorporated. This was the property owner that requested an application packet, but they did not submit any formal comment. This site is undeveloped. It's basically a county property for retention, water retention. Undeveloped properties here. I believe there's a cell tower or something here, but relatively undeveloped. Most of the development is on this side and to the north of the business park. Some variation does exist regarding the development of this commercial area, however. Development along Bolton Court is generally concentrated to the north, as I mentioned, closer to Pine Log Road of the business park, and consists of commercial buildings between 3,200 square feet and 10,000 square feet in area, generally built between 1990 and 2008. In addition to that, several other structures along Bolton Court appear to be located in the required front yard setback and are considered legal nonconforming. This is likely based on that old 25-foot standard from the previous zoning ordinance. So again, some of these are about 25 foot from the property line. But again, would be considered legal nonconforming because they predate the current ordinance. I'll go back to this photo here, or rather image. As mentioned in the staff report, a pre-existing City of Aiken maintained stormwater utility line and easement is present on the rear of the subject property. It does restrict development along the rear portion of the lot here and reduces the buildable area of the lot by approximately 2,100 square feet. Exhibit D in your agenda packet contains photographs of the property taken by staff depicting the existing conditions of the property. This is just a photo of the lot and our notice. This is looking northward just to illustrate, again, the sort of undeveloped nature of the surrounding properties, primarily vegetation. It's kind of looking south towards that Aiken County property that's stormwater retention. Again, just not much out there at the end of the court here. This is looking south towards the Aiken County property. These are the 2 properties to the west. They are for sale, it appears, but again, there's nothing on either of those sites, so it's primarily surrounded by undeveloped property. This is the one property that is developed, again to the west and a bit north on Bolton Court. General commercial use. I'm not sure if this is 25 feet from the property line, but it's probably pretty close. I think most of them don't meet that 30-foot setback on this particular area. And this is just looking northward along Bolton Court there. There are some additional photographs provided by the engineer in your packet there. There's some additional context provided therein. Let's see here. The planning staff's evaluation of the request, as well as the applicant's response to the required 6 variance criteria, can be found starting at page 2 of your agenda packet. This concludes staff's presentation. If there are any questions, please let me know.
Mr. Chairman, I had one question for the city.
Sure.
Just for my own clarification, the additional handout that we got for the neighborhood business description, this is just referring to the older ordinance because this is not current, because this is a general business zoning. This is just a reference to what the old standard was pre-2000, correct?
Correct. Yep. It's just to provide context that's where that 25-foot build line originated from. It was previously zoned neighborhood business. The zoning ordinance changed and was readopted around 2000. So the zoning switched from neighborhood business to general business. Certain things they kept consistent, but they did increase that minimum build line from 25 foot to 30 foot as part of that readoption of the zoning ordinance.
Thank you.
If I understand,
Go
the
ahead,
city,
Brad.
if I understand it, based on the new drawing, the southerly set of buildings, of 5 buildings, is within the 30-foot setback. Looks like it's touching based on this drawing, but that one's okay. It's the northerly set of buildings or strip that
Yes, sir. That's correct.
15 feet applies.
Yes, sir. And I
Right.
believe this is going to be phased also. So the applicant may be able to clarify a little bit more. But yeah, it appears as though it's just that northern set of suites that is encroaching into the front yard setback. The other set of building, or rather the building, but other set of suites meets the current setback standard of 30 feet.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, to the city, just clarify on the general business in terms of the setback as it relates to parking spaces. Those spaces also have to be outside the 30-foot line as well?
I don't believe that is the case. Now, typically, there are landscaping requirements that will be sort of in that setback. So typically, parking spaces, aren't. I mean, they can be in the front, but they're not generally. There are some additional landscaping requirements. But yeah, the setback standard is really just for structures.
For the building structure?
Yeah.
And you may have said this, to the city, you may have said this, but the change from 25-foot setback to 30-foot setback was in the zoning changes that took place in 2006.
I believe it was a bit earlier than that. The property was resurveyed in 2006, but that wasn't noticed that was an incorrect setback on the survey.
Okay.
But yeah, I believe that change, that increase in the setback standard occurred around 99, 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this park was developed even before then, if I remember right, back in the 80s.
Presumably, yeah, most of it on there, yeah.
Okay.
And these have remained undeveloped since that time, as far as I know. Yeah.
I noticed today that there were more off-street parking rather than designated parking.
Yeah, that appears to be somewhat of an issue, just generally as well in the city. So that's kind of why that standard exists. That at least they're providing some, off-street parking. There was some concern from our public safety, if there was increase in on-street parking, whether or not they could get emergency response vehicles back there. But yeah, that's sort of why these standards are applied to at least theoretically apply and provide enough off-street parking.
Other questions from the board to the city? Thank you. Do we have the applicant present? Would you read yourself into the minutes, please? Your name and your address?
My name is Robert Keenan, address 149 Pine Needle Road in Aiken.
Mr. Keenan, you received a copy of the staff report. Do you wish to embellish the report or just respond to and from questions from the board?
Yeah, because it's going to require some discussion, you know, that Max and I had, and I do have a kind of like a overview picture that kind of I think will help explain, you know, some of the stuff, which I'm happy to briefly go over. It's actually it's a 3D model that shows everything.
Please.
Okay. So I am the developer, myself and my partner, and I'm the contractor that will build, and we will maintain ownership of the property, as well as far as getting tenants in and that type of stuff. But this is the overview of what it looks like. Again, the retention pond here, and here's the parcel. And the biggest thing of our problem here is this city utility drainage pipe that makes all of this area back here, 2,000 plus some square feet, unbuildable. We can't, you know, build there. We have to stay away from it. Thus, that's what creates the problem up here at this front corner. As Max explained, on all of the plats, including this plat that's currently at the RMC office where I got this dotted line, although it's detailed over here, says 25 foot. And he explained the difference that changed, but it was never updated from what I was looking at. And so the 6 criteria, I think, are met, as the civil engineer has outlined. But our intent is to build a mini office park of luxury upscale, what we call flex space. It is a combination of, you know, office space and a component of storage space. So you'll have a pre-built turnkey office space. And this is a pre-engineered metal building on a slab, but with an upgraded, more luxury type, better looking than a standard, you know, metal building. So it's meant to be an attractive place to work. And it's meant, again, we look at the use case, there's not really an asset class like this in Aiken, you know, currently. It is not meant to be retail space, so that we don't envision that this will be, even though the general business allows retail, our use the tenants that we're looking at are going to be like a kitchen and bath design showroom that would be like an appointment only type thing, or an electrical or a plumbing contractor that would have a small office and that they could bring their, you know, truck and equipment in, you know, for parking inside. And the rest would be storage space or whatever, but it will have an office and a ADA compliant bathroom, but again, not really meant to be retail. So that's where we get into this area back here, of why we have to slide this corner of the building towards the street, which creates the issue because of this drainage thing right here. These are pre-engineered metal buildings, so they're twin buildings, and we would like to do it without having to re-engineer a smaller building for this one here. But the problem comes about from this pipe underground back here. This building, which is phase 1, meets all the requirements. It's within the setback.
Did you have any comments from the fire department?
We did the the city pre-construction meeting back in, I think, April or May, and the fire chief was there. It does not need to be sprinklered because it's under a square footage threshold that would require sprinklering. So there was no mention of any issue. They said this type of structure is fine and permitted in this general business use.
Right.
So, it's really, it's really probably a much more modern looking building than any of the buildings on Bolton here. Tilden, the civil engineer, does have some pictures that even though this corner is closer, this essentially is all screened by trees, so you don't even really see it. It's an end-of-the-road cul-de-sac, so it's not a high-traffic, volume area. But really, our problem to try and better the, offer a product that people have interest in and better the appearance on the street is really kind of problematic because of this city pipe back here that we can't do anything with. So I hope this kind of shows an idea of what we're trying to accomplish, which is an attractive, tax producing entity for the city. But I think it's an attractive in-demand asset from a commercial standpoint.
I've got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Good, Brandon.
Mr. Keenan, can you circle back to the prefab nature of these buildings and what would happen if you had to come in dimensionally different, one from the other?
Well, again, we want to keep it consistent. So they are pre-engineered and we've already done them. So,
Pre-engineered versus prefab. I used the wrong term there, but yeah. I guess only ask that is because you're looking for on the building that's going to be encroaching upon the 30-foot setback. I mean, are those arbitrary divisional lines you got there to get the square footage of 1781? Is that just how you're going to divide it into 5 equal increments, or
Yes, sir.
that's how it comes, or what?
well, to make it, fit, I think it's 200 some feet in length. And so to make that fit, it gets divided up into, the 5, and it gives you, I think, 1,700 square feet total per unit. 325 square feet of that is office, sheetrocked, heated and cooled, floored space. But
I guess my overall question is, there is technically nothing to keep that from being a set of 200 feet, 160 feet, or whatever, if you were to leave a module off of that, correct, or no?
yeah, we would prefer not to do that.
Oh, no,
would
I
prefer-
get that. From an economic standpoint, I understand that part, but
Yeah.
there's nothing from an engineering or a build thing that would prevent you from making that a 4-module unit on that side.
Yeah, we would have to go back to the company and have a new set of engineered,
Right, okay.
drawings done.
Can you pull up the overview again and show me the 30 parking spots that you have now said that you've come up with?
Yeah. Now, this model here is not updated to really show that. But
Okay.
Tilden, I think I have your, that's it.
We will need you to read yourself into the minutes, sir.
Yes, sir. Tilden Hildebrand with Hassan Hildebrand, 133 Greenville Street, Aiken.
Okay?
Yeah, we subsequently updated the site plan. See if I know how to operate this thing. The 30 spaces, wow. the 30 spaces are shown on this updated plan. 2 handicap spaces, and I won't count them out, but there are, we'll call them public stalls here that are numbered, and there are also stalls that we call owner spaces because they are in front of a roll-up door. Whoever the tenant may be can either open those spaces to the public or restrict that because it's in front of a roll-up door and he's trying to get in or out. And I will note that inside the building, if you remember from the 3D model that Mr. Keenan showed, some of the tenants, he thinks, and I guess we think, would park their vehicles inside the units. So there are, and I labeled widths here because these are wider than normal 10 feet stalls, just based on the fact that the roll-up door is 12 feet wide. So the total number of spaces here in front is 30 plus, Max, I guess you'd have to make a ruling on that, or the planning commissioner, whomever. Could any of those spaces inside the building be counted? With the spaces inside the building, it would be 40. However, our variance request is for 30. They're shown outside.
So, hang on one second, Mr. Hildebrand. So to the city, how are these discretionary parking spots to be, are they those legitimate spots that can be counted in the total? If they're in front of a roll-up door and are at the owner's discretion of, well, technically we're counting them, but 5 days out of the week, I'm gonna keep a work truck there, so they really aren't usable public spots. How's the city gonna treat that?
I'm not as familiar with that standard. Typically, that comes into play when we, do the site and civil plan review, just typically handled by another planner. But yeah, it's my understanding that we would probably have to base the calculation on the uncovered parking shown like as part of the site layout, meaning the 30 would be this, the number we would base that on, the 30 shown here. I'm not 100% sure on that. There may be some flexibility in there. But yeah, I think typically, a typical site plan would require, the parking be demarcated on the site plan, which I believe there's about 30 in this particular case.
Want to be sure you understand the question. I wasn't asking about these internal parking spots. I'm asking about the external ones that he's.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, hang on. To Mr. Hildebrand, of the 30, how many of those would be in front of a roll-up door, or would you consider discretionary versus permanent?
10.
Okay, so 20 and 10 of your
Yes,
30?
that's correct.
Okay, so it's those 10 is
20
my
would
question.
be standard spaces, 10 would be discretionary. I understand your point completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if it outlines in the ordinance. It just requires a certain amount of parking spaces per use, per
Okay.
square footage. So yeah, I mean, if they're parking spaces, then they would count.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I have the owner here. I can't speak for the owner. I don't know whether he'd be willing to stripe those as a standard stall and have the tenant, well, of course, I guess that would be troublesome to have the tenant try to police the parking lot, but, so I guess they need to be left as discretionary spaces.
Okay.
In
But-
part, oh, sorry.
Okay.
Part of the problem that is created is, again, the concept of this is flex. So under the GB, you can have all sorts of different things. Restaurant, retail, the yoga studio type thing. There's not one, there might be different ones we lease to, so that's what makes it difficult. And how do we classify because if you look in the table, for instance, 4.2 4.5.1, office space requires a lot less than retail. So there might be a retail thing in here. It's not likely, that's not our plan, but it fits in general business. So it's hard to figure out from the parking space because it's variable. The use can be variable.
Well, I believe the calculation of 45 is based on half your space being retail. Do you see that being?
We don't, and even half of it is not correct, because if you look at like that model, you know, maybe a quarter of it is the finished office space and 3/4 of it is the back storage area. So it's not, if you look at it that way, the calculation would produce, you know, less required spaces because it's not as much required for a, what is at the bottom of that table?
Storage and
Yeah, I'd have to
Service.
double check, but yeah,
Service
it would be probably considerably less. Generally, retail, standard is going to be the higher number of required off-street parking spaces. So yeah, it was a compromise in some sense, because our zoning ordinance doesn't really have this particular use present in its parking calculation.
I guess the future confusion could arise when these 10 tenants are originally brought in and you have this perfect mix of X amount of retail and X amount of service or small retail visibility. And then over time, that mix changes or you want to change that mix and parking spots aren't available.
I mean, that there's a truth to that, but the thing is that, we as the owner operator of the development, we have to, if somebody comes along, we're not gonna lease to somebody that doesn't meet the general business requirement, we can't do light industrial, for example, under general business, so we're not gonna lease.
No, but what happens if somebody comes in and two of your more service intensive showcase things phase out and two more, an ice cream shop and, more retail stuff comes in.
And
What's going to govern? I don't think you're going to be worried about parking spots. If the guy wants to rent the space, all of a sudden the ice cream guy's corner, everybody's parking in the other guy's spots because he's only got two allocated to him and you already started with a
Certainly understandable. One thing that I've always wondered about when you look at that, the whole top wedge that is unbuildable doesn't mean it's not parkable. So we could have overflow parking, up at that, everything above that dotted line and the back property line. And there's a good chunk of spaces that, could go, and even on the side of the right building over there, on the top of it, essentially, could be overflow.
Okay.
There's space there for that type of parking as opposed to having to go out on the street. It's not buildable.
All right. I appreciate you going over that.
Yeah.
No more
You-
questions for me.
if you'll bear with me, I'll go through my little spiel here and try to clarify a few other things. I know we got several issues here.
Okay.
Can you flip me back to the beginning? This is my IT guy here. There we go. Just to give you a little history, Mr. Coward, I think you remember some of this. Mike Caldwell developed
Yep.
this, zoom out a little bit, it's South Aiken Business Park. He developed this as phase 2 of two cul-de-sacs nearly identical. This in the city, I'm not sure why. This in the county, maybe this came a little later and there was some reason. Maybe the city had adopted, if you use our sewer and water, you got to be in the city, et cetera.
Right.
Anyway, this up here was developed first with this detention pond as a standalone to serve this. Not sure why Mike had the pipe put in on an angle like this, but he he basically cut off the back of these lots, which were already impacted by the cul-de-sac. So it limited the building space here. Another thing, I don't know why, Aiken County agreed that they would own and maintain this detention pond. So this is one little piece of Aiken County in the city, and Aiken County owns and maintains that detention pond.
The retention
more
pond,
pipe.
the retention pond is Aiken County,
It belongs to Aiken County.
okay?
Pipe is the city.
The pipe, anything from this point up is city, kind of convoluted. City lift station right here, pumps up, there's sewer that goes out and a force main, et cetera, et cetera. Let's flip, we'll come back to this one in just a second.
Where do you want to go to?
All right, this is the next street up that was developed as phase one. This is Caldwell Court. Bolton Court is right back here. If you look, most of these developments meet the 30, or these buildings meet a 30-foot setback. At the time that they were developed, both streets had a 25-foot setback. Still shows up on the record plat. My fault for not catching it, knowing that GB is 30 now, but we just went by the record plat when we drew Mr. Keenan's concept. Most of these businesses along Caldwell Court, and it'll be a little bit plainer to see in a minute, have long paved frontages right to the back of the curb. A little bit of grass here. This is Key Chemicals. Let's flip one more, Bob. This is W.A. Bragg over here, long frontage of pavement. So in effect, no setback. I think someone had mentioned, can you do parking stalls in the front setback? Yes, you can, but the city requires that you have a planting strip of 5% of the depth of the lot up to 25 feet. So generally speaking, all new development has a green area in the front, where a number of these, probably most of these over on the next street over, don't. Let's flip one more. All right, this is W.A. Bragg over here. This is some trees that are in front of a portion of W.A. Bragg. And the reason that I took this picture, and I'm sorry it doesn't show up all that well, this situation here is very similar to Mr. Keenan's situation, in that you're looking at the end of the cul-de-sac and you have a wooded lot or a wooded area shielding the last lot developed here. There's actually a business kind of tucked around these trees over here. There's a bunch of mini warehouses stuck on the end of the street. You can see those as you look down the street. And I'll show you in a minute how this is similar to Mr. Keenan.
Where's the pond?
The pond, let's go back one. The pond is actually over here behind Mr. Keenan's lot.
Okay,
Can't see it in this photo. All right, let's go up one more, Bob. This is that building that's tucked around the corner behind those trees for W.A. Bragg. This would be similar to how Mr. Keenan's would look without all this pavement in front. He'd have a driveway that would go up between the buildings here. You can't really see this building until you get right there to it. Very poor visibility. Let's go one more. This is from that building that we're looking out toward Pine Log Road. These trees that block the view of this building. All right, I'm getting to the end of this in just a second. This is Key Chemicals. Key Chemicals is at the end of the adjacent road. This is the cell tower that is adjacent to Mr. Keenan's lot, which is here. Key Chemicals lot backs up to Mr. Keenan's property. You can see that on Key Chemicals, everything is paved pretty much from property line to property line. And everything is paved all the way up to the curb of the street. Yep. So he's got parking lot. I'm not knocking Mr. Key, bless his soul. he took advantage of everything he had here, and he's paved the shoulders and everything, which at the time,
It was probably before the buffer requirement.
it was, and this was in the county, but this is kind of to give you an idea of what the neighborhood looks like. This is Mr. Keenan's lot back here, and Mr. Ogletree, the detention pond is right here.
Okay, okay,
You'll see that better in just a
yeah.
second. All right, let's, can you turn that sideways, Bob? Okay, this is the lot, this is Mr. Keenan's lot here, cell tower on the lot, heavily wooded, tons of trees here that, as far as we know, there's no reason for the cell tower company to have to take those down. It's been like this since the tower was done. I didn't look up and see when that was done, but it's been there a long time. These guys usually have a, I don't know, Karen, you may know, they usually have a 20-year lease, a 50-year lease, a long time. These cars are the cars or trucks that you see parked in the road. They are associated with the next business up, the Willis Kaiser Truck Shop. These guys look like to me they park in the road so they can be in the shade. Their parking lot's fully open, sunny, not full. They just, I guess, like to park in the shade.
Me too.
Let's
That
go
makes
on.
sense.
All right, this is the entrance to the cell tower, so you see the next door neighbor here, and they, pushed out a 15, 20-foot road
Yeah.
to get to the cell tower. I just wanted to show you that, so you can see the neighborhood, so you can see that as you travel down the cul-de-sac, if Mr. Keenan gets his setback variance, you really won't see the building until you're around that wooded area to it. And also with the, let's go back to the plat, to the layout.
Oops, sorry.
Okay. All the buildings on this road are on that, and Max, I think, we checked the buildings on this side. They were 29, 28, just scale from the tax map. One of them is 25. His next door neighbor, right here on the other side of the cell tower, is right at the 25-foot setback. But due to the bump out of Bolton Court and the cul-de-sac, those buildings would all be in line with this building if there's a 30-foot setback. 14 feet from the center line of the road to the pavement, and then the additional 26 feet, which pushes it back 26 feet due to the cul-de-sac. So, all these buildings would line up. To clarify the 30-foot versus 25-foot minimum building, or 30-foot minimum building line, we updated this to show this at 30 feet. The request was for, is for
It was for 9.6.
1496,
Yes.
and it was 5 feet less than that to start with because we mistakenly used the 25-foot setback from the original, or from the recorded record plat. So that's where that difference comes in. We are right on the county's 20-foot utility easement here. No problem with this building. It meets the 30-foot minimum building line setback. Are there any questions I could answer?
I'm wondering about the cell tower.
Okay.
Is that a problem?
Not that I'm aware of. There are no support wires on that cell tower that I recall.
No.
So I assume it's self-supporting. If it were to collapse, it's supposed to collapse
Down.
straight down. I I don't know whether that must have been approved in the county, Max. I don't know that this,
It's maintained by the county, I think.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I said it's maintained by the county, the cell tower,
Oh, is it?
yeah.
It's a repeater for the county, okay. I didn't know that.
Mr. Chairman, when I drove out there, my concern was gonna be the setback, but that wasn't my concern. Once I got there, my concern is the parking, and, the road was just full of cars.
Yeah,
And I said, I pretended like I was a fire truck and I had to go around the Bolton Court cul-de-sac. And it was not easy to do. I pretended like there were cars out there. But you said a little while ago you wouldn't point out the parking spots. I would like to see where the outdoor parking spots are that aren't in front of garage doors, and if you
Okay.
don't mind. And I was looking at that drawing there, and I really can't see which of these are parking spots.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the spotlight on those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Is that right?
What are the big square not square, rectangular looking things out front that have
Right
diagonal?
here?
Yes.
yeah,
All right. You see this little, you see the red outline of the building, and then there's a black line here?
yeah.
Those are the roll-up doors. Those are 12 feet wide.
Oh,
So,
Nancy, we have areas hatched out in front of those roll-up doors so that the owners can access those doors. I guess it's debatable. We could use 9-foot stalls and probably add a space here. And, well, that may be and a space here, which would make 20 unencumbered spots. We were reluctant to put stalls in front of these doors because we didn't want to get into the, as I said previously, we didn't want to get into the owner having to police spots in front of his roll-up doors.
so on the right hand, I'm not even looking on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side, there are 10 outdoor parking spots. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I count, I'm sorry, did I miss one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, if we don't count those as spots, then that could be a spot. We only included the landscaped islands, assuming that we had 10 in a row. It's not real clear, Max.
So each building there is going to have, quote, 2 outdoor parking spots per building.
Oh, each unit, you mean?
Yes,
Each unit. Each of the 5 units?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, Nick.
Which, if you look at the use table, or the parking table, if it is you need 2 spaces per, or 1 space per employee, I think. Yeah, a wholesale business, like a lot of the businesses up the street. 1 space for each 2 employees, which, changes but we don't know exactly what it's going to be since it's flexible. But we do have all of this space up here for overflow parking.
Are you going to have it gravelled, or how's that going to be clear that that's parking there?
Probably like a pole with a parking sign. I can't do anything on top of it because it's an easement. So I can't, I could put gravel there, but I can't, put concrete or asphalt.
An easement just means they could come in and start
Probably have
digging
parking
and doing
bond.
whatever. Yeah, we had a friend's house
Stops.
built on an easement. Well, that's my concern, is the parking. Because that road was hard to navigate when I drove down it yesterday.
That road is big enough. Obviously, the cul-de-sac, 18-wheeler trucks that come down there turn around in there every day. I mean, it's big enough for an 18.
But that's not with people parking on the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I've never seen anyone park on the cul-de-sac, but
Well, if there's
Max,
no
can-
parking for the building available, the closest place I'm gonna park is in the cul-de-sac.
Max, can you go back to the tax map for
There
a
is
second?
parking in front of each unit.
Yeah,
We- How do we get this
on,
off? We need to
on
go to
this,
the
on
tax-
this screen.
Can you get the tax map here?
Yeah, yeah, you mean like
Yeah,
that, that one
yeah,
there? Yeah,
like that one. I want to,
yeah,
just want to show everybody the
yeah, it should be on the projector now.
businesses that has the people parked in the street.
Yeah. I got a photo of it as well, you can kind of see.
Yeah,
Up the
these
street
guys
there.
down here, are in front of, this, they come from this business, and they park under this tree, and they park under this tree. And I've been out there, I think 3 times now. I've never seen that lot full. It appears to be some sort of truck repair shop.
it's not a repair shop. It's a wholesale parts. They sell truck parts. They don't do repairs or anything.
And of course, these guys have, this is Adams Equine Supply, they have, tons of parking. And they probably meet the retail requirement for parking.
Well, I was out there today, a gentleman, spent probably at least an hour or so, and I parked in the cul-de-sac, 'cause I didn't want to park in the disturbed area. Just to walk over the area, try to make sense out of where that easement is and so forth, and the retention pond and that type of thing. And I do think that, yeah, that unfortunately, years ago, those 2 lots, now 1 lot, were encumbered by that drainage easement. So you lost a lot of 2,000 square feet of building space. While I was there was 1 black truck parked on the street. Apparently, he worked at the Kaiser Willis Supply House there. There's another on the left, looking north. It looked like a truck repair shop, maybe. There's the Adams Supply Place, and then there's another, looked like a truck repair shop. I saw cars parked in there, but not on-street parking. The only place I saw on-street parking is apparently where the workers were working at Kaiser Willis. I assume that. Now, when a tractor-trailer rig comes, and it came today while I was there, he came down, made his delivery, also saw a UPS truck, but the tractor-trailer was a Southeastern. He had to wait because I was in the cul-de-sac. He had to wait, and finally I saw him motioning me to move my vehicle
Get out the way.
out of the way, because that's his turnaround, okay? But he made his turnaround, and everything was fine, because that was the time I left. So I understand where you're coming from in flex space, and maybe I'm taking up discussion time.
That's all right. That's okay.
But when I saw flex space, and now that with your visual there, frankly, when I say retail, I really can't envision much retail back there. I envision a contractor like yourself, Mr. Keenan, that has maybe an office and a showroom, okay? I see maybe an industrial, say a small Bed Bath and Beyond contractor in there having a showroom an office space with all of his bathrooms and showers and that type of thing shown. But it's hard for me to imagine any, quote, retail space, as I envision retail space, back there, because it's at the end of the street, and you gotta hunt, you gotta know where you're going to find it.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
I didn't know Adams Supply was a equine supply place until I walked into it.
Right.
I didn't even know they were back there. But anyway, that's just what I see is just, I think what you're describing is flex, if you will, but not
Not retail, no.
retail in the sense. I commend Adams for being back there because you gotta know where they are. And I guess they do okay back there, but anyhow, just for,
Well, and I don't see
I
any,
thought-
I don't see any impulse buying, because you got to go find, you'll
no,
have to
I
go find these businesses.
hard for me to visualize any, like you say, impulse buying or people walking and window shopping. So just my 2 cents worth.
Go back to your presentation and show the floor plan. And, the interior walls that you see, will be constructed when a tenant comes to look at the facility. The bathroom will already be there too, is that right? There'll be a walk-in door here with an office and a bathroom.
Right.
And these interior walls will already be here. You won't walk into an X by Y
Right.
open space and say, you know, what do you want to do? These will all be in place.
Yes.
I'm not a marketing expert, but I don't see this setup lending itself to a retail business. But I just draw plans. I don't really.
The interest we have is all from like a small contractor, like a HVAC contractor, plumbing and electrical contractor. Us personally, we're doing a small design showroom, which is appointment only. So you're exactly right, Mr. Coward. It's not designed way down at the end of the cul-de-sac to be retail. We don't envision that type of tenant. I mean, who needs drive-by space. So again, this asset class really doesn't exist in Aiken. There's not another building like this, but we do have a good bit of interest in it.
Mr. Chairman, I was going to hold my comments until later, but it might be better just to chime in now. Full disclosure, I'm a commercial real estate broker, so looking at this product, I think it's really important to understand that the tenants are going to be seeking you out. They're coming specifically to look for this type of space. We do have a deficit in our market. We don't have flex space. I've actually been trying to talk to a lot of investors about doing this, so I'm personally thrilled to see that it's coming. Anybody that I've worked with for tenant representation is not going to look for this space to open a store. It's not what it's set up for. It's very, I think, purpose-built, and I think it's what a lot of the subs and the contractors are looking for. My question to you was going to be, do you have any current leases that you're already negotiating should this project come to fruition? Because based on that market analysis right there, that's going to tell you who your tenants are going to be. Right. One of the things that I tend to advise my clients on is always looking at your exit strategy as well. So if the building and the market change, if you have a product that's going to grow and change with the market, parking has always been an issue on some of these older commercial buildings. Great example is the one on East Pine Log that is going to be a Sherman-Williams building. Huge building, great building, no parking. Great location. So I do understand why parking is a concern, but I think for this purpose-built project, it's very applicable because essentially you're going to have your office admin and you're going to have basically your technician in and out all day if there is a truck in place, or you're going to have somebody that's doing site calls. They're in and out all day. Or you're going to have somebody that's coming to look at product, they're coming and going, and they're going to be appointment based. So I think it's really important to look at the context and based on what you're sharing. And you actually already answered my question, because if you've got the interest, it sounds like your market's already telling you what it needs, which is what led you to this project in the first place. This property's also been for sale forever, and I do know people that have looked at it and have tried and tried and tried to develop it for different uses, and it didn't sell. And so I think there are a lot of things looking at it from a standpoint of, when you say retail, that's not what this is. Right. This is flex, and flex is a very different animal. People are coming here specifically because they've made an appointment. They're not looking for you. And I think with the prefab nature of it, from a return on investment and understanding the type of, consumer or tenant that's going to be in there, I think really it comes down to, we're talking about setbacks and parking. Based on the use, I think it ticks the boxes, but I would say that if you have people coming to look at it and they're like, well, it's the right size, but for this use, it doesn't have enough parking, you are going to hear that.
Right.
But that's not who you're building for.
You're correct, and I appreciate your validation on the market analysis, because that's exactly what we thought. I build residential homes too and remodel, and the same type of thing is the argument of somebody they're an older person and they want to take out their bathtub, but they think, well, maybe I shouldn't do that because of future, somebody might want a bathtub when I try and sell this house in the future. You being a real estate agent probably, know that. But the modern thing is, remodel it for the way you want to use it now. Mm-hmm. Because there's no guarantee that you're not going to be able to sell it because you took a bathtub out, because the next person just as equally may exactly want what's there and doesn't care if there's a bathtub. Mm-hmm. So I understand what you're saying as far as the exit strategy. Our plan is to hold it long-term as a commercial asset in our portfolio.
Sure, but I mean, to the point of, as the market changes, you may have somebody approach you and say, we would like 2 units to put together. So if you have CC&Rs or some sort of covenants and restrictions that says, okay, we can put 2 units together, you have to have these parking spaces. Like, those are things that you can kind of build into your plan so that it appeases the concern for lack of parking, because there are going to be people that I would imagine would say, well, we want 2 of them. They're going to suit, our business. So I just kind of wanted to make that comment, because you sort of answered my question at the same time.
It validates what we thought about this market. So.
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
Children, would you say hello to my neighbor, Hoss?
I'll do that. He told me to tell you that.
Okay, thank you. Do we have others to speak to the variance request?
Hi, my name is Stacy Key, and I'm the owner of the property behind, at Key Chemicals, behind there. And the question I have would be about that. Are you planning to do that parking behind the building? Because, I mean, that would be, like, my concern would be with the parking between, like, there are no trees. The picture showed pretty trees between us, and there aren't any. But I don't necessarily want there to be, like, an easy, like, will there be an easy cut through, connecting because we've had that problem before with Bentleys and people from that Kaiser Willis place, and they would get stuck, in the mud and different things like that. So, driving through, like cutting through. I didn't know if you had that in the plan would be, but otherwise I have no, everything looks great.
We don't have, do you have we don't have a site plan, I don't think now, do we? You have that in your packet? There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. The city has a planting strip requirement all the way across here. So that will have plantings there. It just doesn't show up on this plan. So there won't be any cross traffic
Okay,
there.
now that's good. 'Cause, I mean, I've got a similar easement back there now. Ours is paved over the pipe, but I don't know if that's because I'm in the county and, but anyway, I mean, that was my only concern.
Sure. There'll be a buffer here.
Okay.
Final call. Do we have others to speak to the variance request? Seeing, hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion so we can enter a period of discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion.
Karen,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance to section 4.3.1 of the City of Aiken zoning ordinance to permit an approximate, and please check me if I do this correctly, 15-foot front yard building setback on property zone general business and generally located on Bolton Court Southeast, TPN 122-0809-001, to approve the variance to section 4.5.1 of the City of Aiken zoning ordinance to permit no less than 30 off-street parking spaces on property zoned general business and generally located on Bolton Court Southeast, 122-0809-001, that the civil plans be consistent with the submitted site plan and that the final order shall be recorded at the Aiken ROD office.
Second.
it's been properly moved and second that we approve the variance request. Do we have any discussion?
I guess the only thing I'd add would be on the 30 spots, I guess I would be okay with the 15 spot variance. But I'd just like to know that there's gonna be 30 spots back there, usable public spots.
Right,
I don't know how to,
50, go ahead.
I mean, technically right now, there's 18 on the drawing with the nebulous 12 others. If you're parking in front of owners, roll-up doors and stuff like that. Is that a concern for anyone on the council how that's, I mean, if you had just 2 employees in each building, there's your 18 spots right there. Mm-hmm. Much less anyone else driving in and wanting to come in. It's just a little, I just think we're doing things a little loosey-goosey on the parking.
Yeah.
If there's 30 definitive parking spots and we're granting a waiver for the 15, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Well, that's been my concern all along, but the way I'm looking at it now is if people think that there's not going to be enough parking, they won't rent it. And it'll tell him what he needs to do, or if customers can't come because there's no parking, then they'll have to try and figure out what they need to do.
Well, it's my understanding, unless I'm misunderstanding it, that they're going to be designated parking, but the tenant is going to be able to determine whether it's a tenant parking spot or if it's utilized for a customer. That was kind of my interpretation, that the 30 parking spaces will physically exist, but it's up to the tenant to determine whether that's an employee spot or dependent on the nature of the business. That was my interpretation.
Whether it's 15 or 30.
I'm sorry. Well, they're still allotting space for parking. I think the plans are just essentially showing that this is an option for the tenant to utilize their work truck versus, really they would be marketed in the sense that there is parking, and that if the tenant chooses to have their work truck take that spot, they could. But they're still, I'm still interpreting it that that's all still going to be designated as parking.
Yeah. I was trying to get a number to go into the motion.
You said
I think
30.
I said 30.
said
Yeah, I said 30.
She said 30.
Said 30.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, 30, okay.
Yeah, because I think if we start getting into language in the variance of tenant versus customer I don't know if that's really in our purvey.
So to the city, Max, they're presenting 30 spots here. Are we going to treat it as 30 spots? We're not really going to delve into these 12 other spots that are determined use by the prospective owner.
I mean, there are certain design standards for the parking spots. Typically, that's going to be like a width or a depth. But yeah, I mean, whether or not they're discretionary as to if they're employee designated or designated to the public, I don't think the ordinance.
The city's going to treat this as 30 parking spots, correct?
That's my understanding, yeah, based on the submitted site plan.
Okay.
Okay.
With the 30 spots, we got 30 on the plan. We got
Yeah.
30 on the plan. Period. That's what the motion says. Whether an employee walks there, drives there, whatever, I think it can be, as the buildings are occupied, as each section is occupied, I think it would work itself out. And the tenants would just have to, as I say, down the road, work things out that, and whether it's an employee, whether it's for the truck or whatever, I don't know how we can sit there and say, well, it's going to be 12 and 18. 30 is platted, or 30 is shown on the drawing. 30 it is. And how it shakes out, whether there's a truck there or a privately owned vehicle there, if somebody parks in front of a roll-up door, then maybe the tenant has to say, this is what you have to, you might have to move your car so I can get my truck out, but maybe not, or just park your truck outside the building, and somebody, the POV finds another spot to park in.
And to that point, as far as typically in the lease structure, that's going to be stipulated as the owner or the landlord manages that. There's going to be criteria to say, like I said, CC&Rs, like almost as what you would have restrictions on the flex office or flex park, to say that, these are our restrictions so that they can manage it, along with their common area maintenance. There's going to be rules and regulations that I think will be policed, if you will, by the owner landlord. And I mean, based on the detail and thoughtfulness and attractiveness of the park, there's going to be a standard that I feel is going to be maintained. And I just don't think that we could necessarily rule on that, because it sort of steps into the management of the leasing structure. That's just my observation of
Well, if we're accepting this plat here, does this show 30 spots? I see 18 with ordered space that we're assuming is to be used for parking. We should be at least approving a plat that's got 30 spots on it.
Does it have to go to engineering, Max? Because they're just asking for the variance, and then it has another step, correct? Or no?
Yeah, I mean, this would still require full site and civil review from us. So, I mean, theoretically, they could configure the parking differently, and some of that could be, included in, I guess, this space here, provided it's, pervious surface like gravel or something. So they could potentially accommodate some of that parking requirement here, as long as they're not getting into the buffers. I mean, this is just based on the number that was submitted with this site plan. So, I mean, it could theoretically change, but it would need to go through site and civil review.
But we're essentially saying that in the approval of the variance, because we're saying the site plan's great. Now the civil plans have to follow, and it has to show that there's this allotted parking, correct?
Yeah, I mean, again, you could condition it however you want. Again, typically I'll put that condition in there saying that, once they submit site and civils, that it's consistent with the approved plan.
And that's kind of what this says. That's how I was reading it. Okay. I mean, I don't know if that helps your point.
Well, I mean, we're approving a motion for a plan that's set up like this, that's got 30 parking spots.
Right.
I'm okay with that, and I'm assuming the city, Max, sees it to fruition, to its
Yeah.
satisfaction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as long as
That's not showing me 30. That's showing me 18. And we got this striped area that, you know, there's spots that the guy will let you park, you know. That's a little loosey-goosey, but the approval is 30, and I'm fine with that. As long as that's what comes off in the end.
yeah, as long as that's the condition of the approval, yeah, that would be,
Okay,
you know,
I think we're ready to roll.
required it prior to, you know, site plan approval.
Do we have any further discussion? Those in favor of the stated motion, show by raise of the right hand. The motion is carried unanimously. With that, I call an end to the meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I think they're gonna find